Hi everybody, I hope you're doing well. My name is Jen, if you're new to my channel, but I am going to be going by the name of Black Rose. And today I just want to make more videos as to why everybody failed baby Emmanuel. Because let's be real, everybody in baby Emmanuel's life failed him. Everybody that was involved in all of this failed him. So I just wanted to add a little bit more to my other videos. I feel like people are still not seeing the bigger picture and they just want to point to one person. And I'm going to present you guys things, and at the end of the day, my comments are all my comments, okay? My comments are my opinions. Definitely don't take them as facts. I'm going to show you things that are facts, but at the end of the day, it is up to you to decide who failed this innocent, beautiful child. So let's look at the justice system, because the justice system had a big part in all of this. The justice system had a part as to why Jake was able to harm another child. Had Jake been charged the right crime the first time in 2018, he would not have been free to harm another child. He was charged with 273A, subdivision A, willful child cruelty. The problem is, this penal code is a wobbler charge, meaning it can be a felony or a misdemeanor. And with this charge, you don't even have to physically harm a child, right? For this charge, it can be an endangerment charge, meaning if you leave a child in a car and the child ends up being harmed in some way, their overall health in some way was harmed, that it caused the child to suffer. Depending on the case, let me give you guys another example. So if, say, Jake was a METH dealer, right, and he was making drugs in his house, if he has a child in that house, he is willfully causing a harm to be done to this child, whether or not it results in death. For a felony, this is only 6 years in prison. And this is why Judge Dwight Moore was able to suspend Jake's prison sentence. This was the reason why Jake pleaded to the court, because he knew that Jake was being undercharged. He had beaten Promise Faith to the point he caused her to be paralyzed for life. That is a very serious crime. He should have been charged with 273AB, Penal Code 273AB. Now, I'm not a lawyer, okay, and you can decide for yourself. Now, with 273AV, let me read you guys what it says. It says, California Penal Code 273AB applies to a person who assaults a child under the age of 8, causing or having the potential to cause great bodily injury or death. This can lead to a prison sentence of 25 years to life if the assault causes death, or a life sentence with the possibility of parole if the assault causes great bodily injury, paralysis, or a coma. Quote, great bodily injury, end quote, is defined as a serious impairment of physical condition, such as a concussion, fracture, or a loss of function in a bodily member. Now, let's look at Promise Faith, you guys. Promise Faith was beaten so badly, treated so horribly, that according to the doctor that assessed her in the hospital in Loma Linda, she claimed that Promise Faith wouldn't even be alive if she wasn't brought to the hospital. This child is never going to be a normal child. She's bound in bed for the rest of her life. Jake caused this. To me, this is an attempted murder. Why wasn't he charged with Penal Code 273 AB with bodily great injury? If Jake was such a serious offender in society, why was he not imprisoned? Why was he not charged the right charges the first time? And what doesn't make sense to me, right, is that why couldn't you have amended the charges? During the court trial, during the court trial in 2023, the person that was representing the district attorney was Sam Taloa. He was from the district attorney's office. Now, in the transcript, Sam Taloa objected one time. If he really thought that this crime was so serious and that Jake needed to be imprisoned, please, why did you not fight for this child? And not only did you not continue to object this, you didn't amend it. You didn't amend the charges. You could have said, hey, Your Honor, with all due respect, I think we need to amend the charges. Right? You did not object to Jake Hatto being able to have access to Promise Faith even when she had a protection order against her own father who almost ended her life. How could you say that you fought for this child? How? I think the actions from the district attorney from the time that this case started, which, mind you, it took them 5 years. 5 years to bring these charges to him. It took you 5 years and you did not change the charges the whole time? Please, make it make sense. I am not, and like I said, I am not a lawyer, but I looked up if there were a timeline where you can amend a charge or not. And this is what it says. Okay, let me read this. It says, yes, a district attorney can amend a charge at various stages of a criminal case, even close to the trial date, provided the defendant's substantial rights are not prejudiced. The timeline depends on whether the defendant is being harmed or surprised by the late amendment. And they can often request a continuance if they need more time to prepare. Now, you guys, they had 5 years. They still charged him the wrong charge. Let me read you guys what the district attorney's role in this, okay? Because he plays a big role. So it says, a district attorney's role is to serve as the chief prosecutor for a local jurisdiction, representing the state or government in criminal cases. Their duties include evaluating evidence, deciding which cases to prosecute, overseeing investigations, and leading the prosecution in court proceedings. They also supervise other prosecutors, work with law enforcement, and work with victims to protect their rights. So you're telling me the whole 5 years that you were working on this case for Promise Faith, you're telling me that you looked at all her injuries, the pictures that were taken of her, and the analysis that the doctor had of this child, and you mean to tell me that this was not serious enough for you? This was not serious enough for you that you don't change the charges for Jake Haro? Her injuries were not serious enough for you to say, hey, this is attempted murder. It says it right there. This child wouldn't have made it had they not brought her to the hospital. He has not served time for the 2018 case. And I apologize for getting so worked up on this, but this needs to be talked about. Who will stand up for these children? Who will speak out for our children, you guys? And the community has the right to be outraged about this. We have every right to be mad about this because this neglect of this case caused a life to be lost. This guy was so dangerous, you guys. This guy was so dangerous that he was allowed to have visitation, peaceful visitation with promised faith. Not only him, because Vanessa Avina, I think her name is Vanessa Avina, right? She has as much role in this as Jake did. She drank. Her son was born with FAS. And if you don't know what that is fetal alcohol syndrome. When you drink during pregnancy. It's one thing to be abused, okay? I'm not minimizing abuse at all. But you have, as a mother, you have a duty, you have a role as a mother to protect your children, and you failed. You failed in that because you did not get your children out of that situation. You failed as a mother to get them out. You let him beat that child so severely that she is bedbound. You, Jake Haro, should never, ever, ever be in the presence of a child. Ever. And the district attorney let him be around children. After he was sentenced for that case, he was allowed to be around children to continue to harm other children. Let that sink in, you guys. How? How could you let that happen? Because they claim that Jake Haro in 2023 pleaded to the judge, right? What did Jake Haro recently just do? He pleaded to the court. He pleaded guilty to the court, right? But yet they were able to amend the charge after he pleaded to the court. So why couldn't they do the same back then? As infuriating as that sounded, my first point, there was another point. Okay? Not only did they have so many chances to put this guy in prison, okay? But he broke probation in 2024. So why was this guy allowed to have continuances after continuances? And I quote the judge, Judge Dwight Moore, said the exact words, "This is a hammer over your head. I already sentenced you to 6 years. If you break your probation, you're going straight to prison." The district attorney did not object. He did not object to the continuances. He did not object to the bail. Why was this guy allowed to have bail? And mind you, right, when he broke probation, right, he had ammunition and firearm in his house. Mind you, he has a 2-year-old child that was taken by CPS, which is actually now adopted by Vanessa's cousin, I believe. Okay? Same people that adopted Promise Faith and her brother. Okay? Now, someone had to approve this bail. Someone had to say, okay, yeah, let's let him have bail. So whoever this judge is that approved him bail and let him continue to have continuances, obviously they did not treat this case as if it was serious. Because First of all, why does it take you 5 years to bring him his charges? Why does it take you 5 years to put him in front of the judge? It wasn't serious to them because they keep letting him out and keep pushing his court date. You let him out. You continue to keep letting him out. That he was able to harm baby Emmanuel. You gave him that chance. This guy was supposed to appear before the court a month after baby Emmanuel died. He was supposed to go to court. Had he been whatever date his last court appearance was before he did this to baby Emmanuel, had the district attorney's office objected to his court date being pushed back, this would have never happened to baby Emmanuel. Baby Emmanuel and Mackenzie, throughout that whole time from 2024 when he broke probation to this year, he was able to go back home to them over and over and over again, putting their lives in danger. And whoever this probation officer is, you failed as a probation officer. You are a mandated reporter. You failed to report all of this to CPS. You failed to report all of this to the court. Why didn't the district attorney bring this probation officer to the court and say, hey, he broke probation, he needs to go to prison right now? He has 2 children in the house, he needs to go to prison. 6 years. And then CPS needed to take away those 2 children. It makes me so angry because the fact that you're gaslighting a whole bunch of people as if we're just gonna not question what you're saying and that we're just gonna go along with what you're saying. The gaslighting, the brainwashing that you're doing to distance yourself from what happened because you don't want any part of what blame for what happened. You take no accountability. None. Your office as a district attorney had as much play in this as the judge who sentenced him to probation. Respectfully. Let me read you guys what they said. Okay, this is from their Instagram account. There has been a significant amount of misinformation circulating regarding the handling of the prior criminal case against Jake Hatto. As a district attorney's office, we have conducted a thorough internal review of how this case was managed, and we wish to clarify several critical points to ensure the public receives an accurate understanding of the facts. It is important to recognize that our office believed the charges could have been more severe based on the nature and extent of the victim's injuries. Had the case gone to a preliminary hearing, it is highly likely that it would have sought amendments to increase the charges. However, Mr. Haro pled guilty prior to that stage, and the final plea was presented to and accepted by the court. Prior to any plea to the court, in the previous case, we strongly objected to the proposed sentence, a probationary term with 180 days in a work release program with the prison sentence suspended. We made this objection in open court and on the record. Our objection was made based on the seriousness of the injuries Mr. Haro inflicted on his then 10-week-old daughter. When the court chose to deviate from the people's insistence that Mr. Haro deserved prison time for his actions, it was acutely aware of the heinous and permanent nature of this young victim's injuries. The availability of more serious charges does not change what the facts dictated the appropriate punishment should be. No one has denied that the court had the discretion to make decision to grant Mr. Haro probation. We believe that granting Mr. Haro probation under these circumstances on these facts was an inappropriate use of that discretion. That was the basis of our objection. Our office's primary focus remains providing justice for baby Emmanuel. It is essential that we do not lose sight of who is truly responsible for the loss of life at issue in this case and focus our time and energy on ensuring justice for baby Emmanuel. Yes, you guys, let's not lose sight of who's responsible here. And I'm going to read you guys some of the comments, and I am going to cross out people's names. I don't want them to get harassed for their opinions. It says, I think an issue is that this wouldn't have happened if Jake was given a proper sentence for his daughter. So let there be justice for Emmanuel. The Riverside County DA is notorious for stacking charges on people. They file junk cases the majority of the time, especially if you have lying investigators on the case trying to climb the ladder. How come they didn't stack charges on his original case? These types of cases needed to be taken more seriously. Don't just blame the court. Another person says, this is reckless because your office makes filing decisions and has the discretion to charge whatever they want. If your office wanted to file it more severely, you could have at the outset. Don't mislead the public. Also, your office was there when he violated probation, and he was given a reinstatement, not state prison time. Even then, had he been given the maximum sentence, he would have already been out of jail right now. Don't be reckless. This guy qualifies for the three strikes law. If you guys don't know what the three strikes law is in California, let me read it to you. Okay? In 1994, California voters enacted the three strikes and you're outlaw in response to the tragic murders of Kimber Reynolds and Polly Klaas. The law imposed a life sentence for almost any crime, no matter how minor, if the defendant had two prior convictions for crimes defined as serious or violent by California Penal Code. According to official ballot materials promoting the original Three Strikes Law, the sentencing scheme was intended to keep murderers, rapists, and child molesters behind bars where they belong. However, today, more than half of inmates sentenced under the law are serving sentences for non-violent crimes. Okay, this guy, you guys, he abused baby promise. He broke probation, and then now he is convicted of the crime, the murder of baby Emmanuel. That is the three strikes law. This law puts you life in prison. He qualifies for this law. So are they going to put this on him? It says, California's three strikes law, enacted in 1994, mandates a minimum 25-year to life prison sentence for a third serious or violent felony conviction. The law was later reformed by Proposition 36 in 2012, which made a third strike sentence apply only if the third felony is itself serious or violent, not for any subsequent felony as originally written. This change allows defendants with two serious felony priors to have their sentence doubled for a new, less serious felony, but not receive a life sentence. I mean, how serious of a crime did this guy committed? How serious could it get? He is an attempted murderer. Had Promise Faith not been taken to the hospital that day, she would have had the same faith as baby Emmanuel. She wouldn't be here right now. And I'm not trying to be dark, but that's the truth. This is attempted murder. Let me read you guys the article from the US Sun, okay? Asked about the reason Jake was allowed bail, a spokesperson for the DA's office told the US Sun, when Jake Haro violated his probation in August 2024, he was immediately jailed, but posted bail on both the new gun case and the violation of probation. Quote, he was not on parole at the time, rather he was on probation. Quote, the decision to continue the case rather than proceed with immediate detention was made by the court, based on various reasons, some being the ongoing investigation and the need for preparation of the underlying gun case for hearing. The court did not place any restrictions, such as curfews or other conditions, beyond those associated with his bail. Regarding baby Emmanuel, he was not yet born when Jake Haro's probation was violated. Therefore, there were no court-ordered restrictions on Emmanuel. But the Long Beach Post reported the DA's office did not oppose Jake Haro's remaining free on $60,000 bail. At least 3 times prior to August 2025, when Jake Haro allegedly murdered baby Emmanuel, the DA's office appeared in court on the new cases but didn't oppose requests by the defense attorney to continue the matter while Jake Haro remained out of custody. They reported in a recent article. The U.S. Sun has reached out to the DA's office for further comments, but did not hear back. According to transcripts reviewed by the Long Beach Post, during the most recent hearing on July 2, 2025, Jake appeared before a Riverside County Superior Court judge along with the lawyer. Deputy DA Connor Rathbun told the court that, quote, Mr. Haro's counsel of record is currently engaged in a child custody matter and he's asking to come back September 2nd. I have no opposition to that. It was just weeks later that Jake and Rebecca allegedly murdered their son. Despite the office not opposing bail, Hestron said the criminal justice system broke down. Hestron called the decision by the judge to let Jake avoid a prison sentence after abusing his daughter outrageous. If the judge had done his job as he should have done, Emmanuel would be alive today, he said, although he would not have been born. Quote, that's a shame, and it's an outrage when our criminal justice system breaks down. I'm going to call it like it is and say it broke down. You failed to protect these children. Even though baby Emmanuel wasn't born yet, he still went to court, right? He had Mackenzie and Rebecca was pregnant. That whole time you couldn't get CPS to take him? Why was this person allowed to be back to his house around children? He was allowed to be around children. You guys, instead of this guy going to prison, he was allowed to walk free as a bird. He was allowed to be out in society. He was allowed to have 2 children that were not taken away by CPS, mind you. He was allowed to do whatever he wanted. As far as justice system goes, let me remind you guys why they're at fault here, okay? The judge sentenced him to 48 months probation, batterers counseling, work release program, okay? Sam Taloa never objected. Only one time he objected, mind you. He objected one time. Judge Dwight Moore was sentencing Jake, okay? He didn't object to Baby Promise being visited by Jake or Vanessa once or twice a month. He agreed to it. They never amended the charges. The DA's office never amended the charges or changed the charges. Mind you, they had 5 years. They had 5 years till this case was put in front of the judge. The probation officer, whoever this guy is, he is a mandated reporter. He is supposed to be reporting on Jake. He was supposed to be making sure that this guy is in line and is not breaking probation. Yet, his case involved children and he was allowed to be around children. That's all I could say. Make it make sense. Now, It's easy for District Attorney Hestron to point fingers at Judge Dwight Moore because during the press conference, they didn't want any liability for this. They didn't want to be pointed fingers. They didn't want to look bad in front of the public. They were trying to say that they fought for this child. They fought for promise of faith. When the truth is, they only objected one time to the sentencing. One time. Please, if you think Judge Dwight Moore is the only one at fault here, please open your eyes and look at the bigger picture, because this is not just Judge Dwight Moore doing everything, okay? Everybody had a play in this. Everybody had a part in this. So please consider thinking about questions when we're thinking about the 2018 case. We need accountability for this. None was taken. From the district attorney's side, no accountability was taken. Even with that post they posted on Instagram, they were still trying to make an excuse as far as on their side why everything went down the way it went down. Now, when it comes to baby Emmanuel's family also failed him. Who failed him the most is his mother, Rebecca. The person that's supposed to care for him, love him, cherish him. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're both supposed to love, cherish, and care for this child. But Jake Hatto is incapable of loving a child, incapable of caring for a child, incapable of, like, do you not comprehend that a baby can't understand why you're angry, can't understand why you're frustrated with them? A child doesn't understand that. A baby doesn't understand all of the things that are happening to them. Like, it makes me so angry because baby Emmanuel did not know what was going on to him. He did not know what was happening to him. Rebecca failed as a mother to protect this child. And it makes me so angry because she didn't take away Mackenzie. She didn't take away Emmanuel from this situation. She failed as a mother. You were supposed to prioritize your children, and you failed as a mother to do that. You failed as a mother to protect your children. You chose the person that was hurting your children. Now, mind you guys, she filed a DV with children against her ex-husband. Why couldn't you do the same with Jake? Why couldn't you have taken the children and called 911, you guys? She couldn't have called 911. I believe, and this is my comments, okay? I believe Rebecca knew that baby Emmanuel was being harmed. How do you not look at your child and just, and I don't think these two worked, okay? I'm not trying to judge, but I don't think these two people worked. But if they're at home all the time, because according to the grandma, they're homebodies. They stay home, which is the perfect place for an abuser because nobody sees the child, right? So there, it's easy for them to abuse the child when nobody is looking and they have access to this child. Home is the perfect place for an abuser to abuse a child. The sister was next door. The sister was next door. There's no way she didn't know what was going on. How do you look at your child and not question where that mark on his above his eyebrow? How do you not question that? How do you not ask, what happened to my child? What did you do to my child? Baby Emmanuel looks like, and I've seen comments from professionals, okay, which they claim to be professionals. When you look at baby Emmanuel, when he was first born. He looked normal. He looked like a precious, normal, precious child. He had that baby spark, like a happy child. But when you look at his later pictures, you can tell he suffered a brain injury. And I'm not a doctor, okay? I'm just based on what I read about what he did to Promise Faith. I believe Jake shook baby Emmanuel, and baby Emmanuel suffered a brain injury. I don't think he was able to move around, you guys. And it pains me to see his pictures. Every time I look at his pictures, I want to cry. Because this child suffered. This child suffered his short 7 months. He suffered a very long, long pain and suffering. Baby Emmanuel, all he wanted was to be loved and cared for by his parents. I can't imagine the confusion that he was feeling. I don't know how babies think, okay? I can't imagine. He was probably so confused. Like I said, the aunt was right next door. I believe that she's seen baby Emmanuel before. How could you let it doesn't matter if it's your brother, it doesn't matter if it's your dad, it doesn't matter if it's whoever in your family. How could you let somebody harm an innocent child? She's a mother herself. I've seen the video of her where she deleted it. She's holding a child. I imagine this is her child. How could you let a person harm such an innocent, precious child? And we're blaming Rebecca's mom, or not me, but people are blaming Rebecca's mom and suspecting that she has something to do with baby Emmanuel. As far as I know, Mary did not enter the picture until March of 2025. Now, mind you, Jake's family, they're living on Jake Haro's stepfather's property, which is, I believe, in his mother's name, Rachel. Jake Haro and his sister are both living on that property, you guys. Why are we not looking at Jake's family? The aunt must know something. There's no way you don't keep contact with them. They're right next door. You failed your nephew and your niece. You failed to protect these children. But most of all, Rebecca, you failed as a mother. You failed as a mother to protect these children. And shame on you for picking this guy over and over again, knowing what he's capable of. Because remember, you guys, she knew that Jake Haro was convicted of willful child cruelty. They were married at the time. Jake Haro was going through probation, work release program, batterer counseling. He was going through all this, and Rebecca knew all of that. And remember, when that video that I posted about Jake Haro going to the store 3 days in a row, Ahmed Beyozo shared this on his Facebook. He went 3 days in a row at the store to donate baby items, dump things in their dumpster, donate baseball cards. He donated a swing and a baby walker that was unused. Mind you, baby Emmanuel was not walking yet, and he knew that. Babies usually start walking at the age of 11 months, 12 months. Usually, okay? Sometimes it's earlier depending on the child. But I'm saying Jake knew baby Emmanuel wasn't gonna need this because Jake knew what he was doing. And I believe Rebecca also knew what Jake was doing. So whether or not it happened the day of August 5th, between that or around the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th through the 14th, they knew what they were doing. It is very calculated what these two people were doing behind closed doors. It makes me sad and it makes me want to cry to know that these two were so capable of hurting their precious child. What would make you want to commit such a heinous crime like this against children? You are nothing but a coward, Jake Hatto. You choose voiceless victims. You choose children. You choose victims that can't talk, that can't tell on you, that can't protect themselves. How dare you? And you too, Rebecca, you had an obligation to protect your children and you did not. Shame on both of you. They did not take this seriously, you guys. Look at their actions for this case. Almost a decade for this guy to be held accountable for the 2018 case. Please help me understand it, because that decision to undercharge him, that decision to give him a lenient sentence, that decision to not object and fight for this, for promised faith, that decision to not report to CPS, that decision to let his court dates be continuously pushed further and further, caused an innocent, precious child to be taken from this earth. It cost an innocent child's life. And I hope everything that I'm saying makes sense to you guys. Sometimes it's hard to articulate the things I want to say and how I want to say it. So sometimes I feel like it doesn't come across to the point. So I hope everything that I showed you guys made sense. And you gotta question these things.